The scene was electric in Brussels last winter. EU leaders gathered under bright lights flanked by cameras, their faces tense. The vote was not just about gas, it was about the future of Europe. As the ban on Russian gas imports passed, some cheered, others whispered about the risks. The world watched as the continent made its most daring energy move in decades. In the months before, Europe had been rocked by shockwaves. Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, gas prices soared. Suddenly, energy wasn't just about comfort, it was about security, politics, and survival. The EU's decision to cut itself off from its biggest supplier was more than historic. It was a gamble that could change the course of economies and even lives. Across Europe, headlines cried out, "Russian gas ban passed." Overnight, energy traders scrambled. Factories braced for impact. Households worried about bills and winter warmth. The continent was heading into unknown territory, and nobody knew where it would end. In the streets of Berlin, Paris, and Warsaw, anxiety was palpable. Could Europe really survive without Russian energy? Or would this bold move backfire, plunging industries into darkness and millions into cold? Europe's path to the gas ban was neither quick nor smooth. It began in early 2022, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent shock and outrage across the continent. At first, European leaders hesitated. Russian pipeline gas, after all, powered industries and heated homes across the EU. But pressure grew with each passing week. By mid-2022, the EU moved to cut Russian pipeline gas. New contracts were blocked, but a full ban was still too risky for many. Some countries, like Hungary and Slovakia, argued for more time. The union was divided. Still, the plan moved forward: phase out pipeline gas by the end of 2023, then address liquefied natural gas imports. As 2024 dawned, the second wave hit. EU lawmakers targeted Russian LNG, the super-chilled gas that arrives by ship. The deadline: a complete phase-out by early 2026. For many, this was the real test. LNG, unlike pipeline gas, could be bought and shipped quickly, making it both a lifeline and a loophole. The new rules were strict, but enforcers faced a maze of contracts, loopholes, and eager traders. Would the ban really hold, or would creative workarounds undermine the EU's bold stand? As the ink dried on the EU's new rules, something surprising happened. Russian LNG shipments to Europe didn't fall, they surged to record highs. Instead of shrinking, Russian gas was flooding into ports from Spain to Belgium. For many, this paradox was hard to believe. How could this happen? EU leaders had just declared an end to Russian energy, but the numbers told a different story. In 2025, Russian LNG imports to Europe hit their highest level since the war began. Ports like Zeebrugge in Belgium and Montoir de Bretagne in France saw Russian tankers docking almost weekly. Industry watchers scratched their heads. The ban was supposed to starve the Kremlin of cash. Yet Europe's demand for LNG remained strong, and Russian suppliers eagerly filled the gap. Traders found new ways to buy, blend, and resell gas, sometimes masking its origins. This paradox fueled controversy. Critics accused governments of hypocrisy. Supporters argued it was a necessary evil. Either way, the reality was clear. Russian energy still powered Europe, even as leaders insisted on change. Why did Russian gas keep flowing, despite the bans and political drama? The answer, experts say, comes down to three words: weather, profits, and buyers. Each played a crucial role in keeping Russian LNG at the heart of Europe's energy mix. First, weather. Europe's winters have been colder than expected. Heating needs soared, and domestic gas storage struggled to keep up. Even a short spell of icy weather sent countries scrambling for extra LNG. Russian gas, abundant and available, was hard to resist. Second, profits. Trading houses and energy companies saw opportunity. Russian LNG was often cheaper than alternatives from the United States or Qatar. By blending and rerouting shipments, traders made handsome margins. Ports like Barcelona, Dunkirk, and Rotterdam became key gateways, with Spain, Belgium, and even France buying the most. Finally, buyers. Not all EU countries moved at the same pace. Some, like Germany and the Netherlands, cut Russian imports sharply. Others, such as Spain and Belgium, ramped up purchases, sometimes re-exporting gas to neighbors. That patchwork approach kept Russian flows high, even as the final ban loomed. For years, Poland was seen as Europe's energy weak link. Dependent on Russian gas, it worried about both cost and security. But the landscape has changed. Today, Poland is emerging as a key energy hub, reshaping the region's gas flows. The pivot began with massive new infrastructure. Poland expanded its LNG terminal at Świnoujście on the Baltic Sea. Pipelines now link it to Slovakia, Lithuania, and the Czech Republic. A new floating storage and regasification unit, or FSRU, is under construction at Gdansk, promising even greater capacity. Warsaw's vision is bold. Poland wants to become the central gateway for non-Russian LNG across Eastern Europe. That means buying from the United States, Norway, and Qatar, then sending gas south and west. Already, neighboring countries are signing deals to tap into this new network. But, challenges remain. Building new pipelines takes time and cash. And while Poland has cut Russian gas to zero, many of its neighbors still rely on it, at least for now. The road to full energy independence is long and uncertain. One of Europe's boldest plans is the East Med pipeline. The idea is to ship gas from Israel and Cyprus under the Mediterranean to Greece and Italy, bypassing Russia entirely. On paper, it's a dream of energy independence. In reality, it's a maze of risk and politics. Technically, the pipeline would be a marvel. Stretching over 1,900 kilometers and plunging to depths of 3,000 meters, it would be one of the world's longest subsea pipelines. Engineers warn of huge costs and difficult terrain. Environmental groups raise alarms about the fragile sea floor. Politically, the hurdles are just as high. Turkey opposes the route, citing territorial disputes in the Mediterranean. Italy has wavered in its support, worrying about costs and environmental backlash. Israel and Cyprus face their own tensions over gas fields. Despite the obstacles, Europe presses on. The pipeline is seen as a symbol of breaking free from Moscow, but with so many risks, it's far from clear when, or if, EastMed gas will ever flow to European homes. The Nord Stream pipeline sabotage in late 2022 was a turning point. In one night, explosions ripped apart the Baltic Sea's most important gas link. Underwater video showed twisted metal and bubbling gas clouds. Europe was stunned. The attack shattered faith in energy security. If Nord Stream could be blown up, what about other pipelines or undersea cables? Suddenly, every piece of infrastructure looked vulnerable. Governments ordered emergency inspections and beefed up surveillance. The economic shock was instant. Gas prices spiked as traders feared more attacks. Insurance costs soared for ships and pipeline operators. Nord Stream, once a symbol of Russian-German cooperation, now stood as a warning. Energy flows could be disrupted at any time. For Europe, the sabotage forced a reckoning. Energy wasn't just an economic issue, it was a target in a new kind of conflict. The race was on to secure supplies and rethink old alliances. The energy crunch has hit Europe's factories hard. In Germany's industrial heartland, chemical plants and steel mills have slowed or shut down. Towns that once thrived on manufacturing now face job losses and empty streets. The pain is spreading. High gas prices are the main culprit. As Russian supplies dwindled and alternatives proved costly, energy bills soared. Some companies tried to pass costs to customers. Others simply gave up, unable to compete with cheaper imports from Asia or the United States. The numbers are grim. In 2025, industrial output in Germany fell by nearly 8%. France and Italy saw similar drops. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are at risk, from skilled machinists to truck drivers. Supply chains are stretched to the breaking point. Politicians scramble for answers. Subsidies and bailouts have helped a little. But many worry that without stable, affordable energy, Europe's industrial base may never fully recover. Greece hoped to be a savior in Europe's gas drama. The Vertical Corridor project was launched with fanfare, a new network piping gas north from Greek ports to Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary. The goal: bring in non-Russian LNG and send it deep into the continent. But reality has been harsh. So far, market interest is low. Traders say the route is too expensive and slow compared to established corridors. Bottlenecks at Greek terminals and border crossings make matters worse. Even with EU backing, the corridor is far from full. For Greece, this is a blow. The country invested heavily, hoping to become a regional energy hub. Now, some fear the project could become a white elephant, costly, but little used. Still, Athens remains optimistic, banking on future demand as Russian gas dries up. The lesson is clear: new infrastructure is necessary, but only if it's practical and competitive. For now, Europe's search for secure, affordable gas continues, with no easy answers in sight. With official bans tightening, energy companies are getting creative. Some blend Russian LNG with other sources, making it harder to trace. Others use middleman countries to buy, sell, and re-export gas, skirting direct bans. The result is a murky world of shortcuts and side deals. In some cases, Russian LNG is unloaded at European ports, then reloaded onto smaller ships bound for Asia or Africa. But much of it stays in Europe. Traders use complex paperwork to hide the gas's true origin. Governments facing pressure from industry often look the other way. This new energy game has risks. It creates new dependencies on traders, on friendly countries, on opaque supply chains. It also undermines the EU's united front against Russia. As long as money is to be made, some will find ways around the rules. For Europe, the challenge is clear: how to enforce its own rules without crippling the industries and households that depend on cheap energy. As the final ban approaches in 2026, the stakes could not be higher. Russian LNG still flows into Europe, bringing profits to Moscow and relief to energy-starved industries. Governments face a hard choice: stick to their principles or give in to economic pain. Analysts warn that when the last loophole closes, something must give. Will Europe stick to its guns and risk deeper recessions? Or will political pressure force a quiet retreat with new deals behind closed doors? Russia, for its part, bets that Europe cannot live without its gas. The world is watching. Europe's historic gamble on energy independence is nearing its climax. As factories go dark and profits rise in Moscow, one question hangs in the air. When the final ban arrives, who will blink first?